Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to play with air dry clay, and this is my first time ever using it. I'm using the DAS white air dry clay, and we're going to attempt to make a candle holder. And I found that air dry clay cannot be made into the same intricate details that you can use polymer clay for. Whereas I could roll that polymer clay practically paper thin and still come off with a good product, you can't use air dry clay like that. So I found. Um, First of all, you're going to see that I've not worked this clay long enough. It's not laminated together very good. It's a ball full of layers, basically. But keep in mind, I've never used it before. This is my first time. I don't like this little rolling pin. I mean, it works okay, but I'm used to like grandma's rolling pin where you grab the sides and go at it. I will tell you that if you work with air dry clay, you have to have a little speed with it because you can't take your time like you do with polymer clay because I'm slow. And as I'm bebopping along, taking my time, like I'm on a Sunday drive, this clay is drying out. I did have sense enough to put the big package back into a Ziploc bag so that I wouldn't dry it out while I was working with the other parts. You see how those layers not laminated together very good? I didn't work it very good either. I never played with clay as a child, so I didn't like stuff that you couldn't keep. Once you make something, Play-Doh just never kept my interest because then you're supposed to break it down and put it back in the cup, and I never understood that. I didn't care for it. All I found it good for was melting and picking up writing out of the newspaper. On my first attempt here, the idea is to form a candle holder over a glass jar, let it air dry, and then slide it off. So my first attempt, that's exactly what I do. Put it on the glass jar. No thought as to how it's supposed to come off. What's going to happen when it sticks to it? Is it going to dry to it? I know clay's supposed to shrink as it dries, but having never worked with it before, there's no expertise here to work with. I did find a channel, Red Rockin' Robin, I believe that's what she calls her channel. She does a lot of air dry clay, and oh my gosh, she makes the gorgeous, just best looking things. Um, Little paint palettes and birds, and she made a huge platter, and it looked fun. I'll let you know by the end of this if it was fun or not. I figured out pretty quick, get a little bit of water in a cup, but I probably should have got a sponge with a little bit of water and left that cup because, well, you'll see. And I really should have went and washed a pan of dishes before I even did this because you'll notice my hands are so dry, the clay's sticking to them. I'm old, it's winter, and skin gets dried out. So I should have washed a whole pan full of dishes by hand before I even did this so that my hands would be wet and soft. And the idea here was to make a flat bottom and possibly put some feet on it and make four different um, twisted um, corners to hold up a top and set the candle down in it. Kind of like a lantern. Now, mind you, the candles I'm using are battery operated, not real candles. I don't burn real candles. I don't want to burn my house down. I did find it was kind of hard to measure it. And you notice I dampened it down with a brush. It's starting to dry out. That's why I did that, so it would kind of stick together. But the one little bad thing about that is you have to watch how much water you put on because if you put too much, you'll get what happens later on. And you should probably treat your extra just like you do phyllo dough and put a damp rag on top of it while you're working with another piece so that it doesn't dry out while you're spending time over here on the other side of the table. It's drying out here. It don't want to catch very good. I was struggling here. You'll notice, of course, that none of those are the exact same length because, of course, naturally I get one longer than all the rest, as usual. And I was thinking, well, I could put a little ball here and a little ball here and a little ball here, and then I could glue on some bling when I get finished. But then later on, I thought, well, you idiot, you're not that good at it. You should probably learn to make it first before you try to bling it up. Number two, we're going to come back to the other one later after it's dry. I've decided to go with a plastic bottle this time with plastic on it. I did put some saran wrap over it so that I could slide it off. I thought that might be a little bit of an easier thing to do. This is a whole nother day. You'll see when I get to, I'll show you the other one before we're done, but the reason I did that was this is a whole nother day. The other one's already dry and it was a catastrophe. So I'm going to start at the bottom and I'm going to cut out these heart shapes. I'm going to put them right side up and upside down. And then I'm going to start it down the side of the jar. Only, I didn't really think about this before I did it. And it's not really going to fit on that jar very good. It's not going to go very far. And I've got the cuts where it needs to be in. And I'm going to get frustrated with it in a second. And you'll see what happens when I take it off. I should have waited to cut the hearts until I got it on, or just not put as many until I got it on there. I was having to cut and overlap, and it was making those hearts distorted and I said, screw that. So we're about to tip number 3. And I've decided just to make a solid piece for a first try instead of trying to do intricate patterns. Because if I can't even make an ashtray, what's the point of trying to make a candle holder? And this attempt does come out better. It's not going to be great, but I am going to follow through to the end and keep it. I mean, it's ugly when I get done with it, but it's not that bad, actually. Me in the water there. Now, here's the deal. Should have dipped my hands in the water. That was too much. But I'm going to keep this thing, flaws and all. And as I'm doing this, you'll see it cracking. Well, I'm thinking it's drying out. So what do? Get more water. No, that's not what was wrong. I was putting too much water and wasn't even thinking about overwatering it. So a damp sponge would be your better friend than a cup of water. Or a little bit of a paintbrush. I was becoming more concerned with it drying out. I didn't think about it being overwatered, so that's the problem. I do dip those in the water very lightly to get them to stick. And they work pretty good doing that. Because I wasn't actually sticking them in the water. I was sticking my finger in the water and tapping it to the back. So that turned out okay. A spritzer would probably be better. And I'm just going to cut down the sides and I'm going to spin those little, try to swirl those little pieces down. They don't turn out that great. I couldn't figure out how to spin them down because my fingers are so huge. And I thought if I put a barbecue skewer in it, I probably wouldn't be able to get it out without tearing it up. This is something I'm going to have to work with a little bit more to learn. But keep in mind, as I'm going, I am learning as I'm doing this. It might be a mess when I get done, but I am learning as I go. So, and you see how wet that is on the bottom. Mm-mm-mm. Now here we go. I'll show you in a minute what happened to the other one. Taking it off the jar was not easy. I did figure to pull on the plastic a little bit to loosen it up. Then I just couldn't get a hold of it, and I was scared I was going to break it. I didn't want to put too much pressure on the bottom where the clay's at. So I was trying to get a good hold of the top. And there it went. Hideous, ain't it? You see where I painted the water on and it got too thin? I left it. And I should have sealed it with something before I tried to paint it because that paint makes that clay kind of get mushy again and right there where it's really thin. I should have Mod Podged it or something. I mean, it was fine once it dried back out, but if I hadn't overworked it with the water, it would have been better. Because as I was holding it in my fingers, I could feel it getting soft where it was thin. Yeah, I'm going to show you that first one right there. This is what happened to it. As I was taking it off the jar, it just kept falling apart. As I was trying to do it, it was drying. It was not sealing together. I was going too slow. Taking it off the jar was a nightmare. It came off in pieces. And I'm just going to go around and paint every other one pink and then every other one red. I didn't do too bad for a first try. That looks like a kindergartner did it, doesn't it? Basically, I am a kindergarten with this product because I've never done it before. Maybe by the time I get to the next project, I'll be an elementary school student with it. I probably should have started with an ashtray, like all of the school kids do, huh? And I just want to highlight those scrolls. That's what it looks like, scrolls. I want to highlight the sides of the scroll work. Every other one red, every other one pink. It don't need a lot. Just enough to give it that Valentine's Day look, you know? Look at it. It ain't even sitting up straight. That's another thing when you do your air dry clay. Make sure your bottom's flat. Mine's not. That's polymer clay on the right. I did it on a jar, and the idea was to make it on it, bake it, and then slide it off. But then once I got it on there, I thought, I kind of like that like it is. I just got to get some ribbon to put around the top. But here we're going to do that polymer clay vase. I'm going to get some ribbon to put around that top where the lid screws on, and I'm going to put me a flower arrangement in it. Because I kind of like it on the jar, so. And nobody's going to know that's a jar. It looks like a vase, don't it? Close enough. And I've probably got a battery operated candle that will slide down in there that's skinny enough, so I didn't feel like looking for one. And also, for the first time ever, I'm going to use the liquid Sculpey, which is what the glue for polymer clay. And I've never used it before. I found it a little runny, but I've had that bottle about 9 months, and this is the first time I've ever used it. And I'm rolling out vines. The idea here is to make a green base, put green vines all around the sides, and use heart-shaped flowers. And it didn't turn out too bad. And here's what it looks like before I bake it. So don't be afraid to try something new. I'm going to keep working with this until I get better at it. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it inspires you to try something new. I did. Even if it doesn't look that great, keep it anyway.